In the heart of a bustling city, Grace worked tirelessly at her job in a marketing firm. She was the kind of person who always went the extra mile, staying late to meet deadlines, mentoring interns, and coming up with creative ideas that often saved projects. Everyone knew she was destined for greatness, including her co-workers, Eric. Eric was ambitious, but his ambition often came at the expense of others. For months, he watched as Grace received praises from their manager, Mr. Mensah. And when rumors of an upcoming promotion began to circulate, Eric's jealousy ignites like wildfire. One afternoon, Grace was called into Mr. Mensah's office. Grace, he said with a smile, I want you to prepare a presentation for the board next week. This could be the opportunity we've been talking about. Grace was thrilled. She worked late every evening crafting the perfect presentation. But Eric, overhearing the conversation, had other plans. One evening, after everyone had left, Eric stayed behind. He snuck into Grace's computer and altered her presentation slides. Subtly but deliberately, he changed key data points to incorrect figures, ensuring the presentation would fail. I'll make sure they see she's not perfect. Eric muttered to himself, satisfied. On the morning of the presentation, Grace walked into the boardroom with a mix of nerves and excitement. Eric sat in the corner, feigning interest while secretly gloating. As Grace began her presentation, she'd noticed furrowed brows and skeptical looks from the board members. By the third slide, one of them interrupted. These figures don't seem accurate. Are you sure about this? Grace's heart sank. She fumbled through her notes, confused. I double-checked everything, she said, her voice shaking. But the damage was done. The meeting ended abruptly, and Grace left the boardroom, feeling humiliated. Eric, watching from the corner, smiled to himself. Later that week, Eric's moment of triumph came. Mr. Mensah called him into his office. Eric, he began, since Grace's presentation didn't go well, the board wants someone else to step up. I would like you to take the lead on the next project. Eric could barely contain his glee. He nodded, trying to appear humble. But karma has its timing. On the day of Eric's presentation, the IT department flagged a security issue. Someone had accessed Grace's account without authorization. It didn't take long for them to trace the activity back to Eric's computer. Before Eric could step into the boardroom, he was called into Mr. Mensah's office again. This time, the tone was different. Eric, do you have anything to say about this? Mr. Mensah asked, sliding the report across the desk. Eric stammered, his face pale. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You sabotage your co-worker for a personal gain? Mr. Mensah said. His disappointment was so clear. Pack your things. We don't tolerate this behavior here. Grace was called back into the office the following day. Mr. Mensah, now aware of the sabotage, apologized for what had happened. Grace, the board wants you to redo your presentation. They trust you, and so do I. This time, with her original work restored, Grace delivered a flawless presentation. The board was impressed, and Grace received the promotion she had earned. As Eric walked out of the office with a box of his belongings, he passed by Grace's desk. She didn't gloat or rub her success in his face. Instead, she smiled politely, a silent acknowledgement that what's meant for you will never pass me by. Grace's journey teaches us an important lesson in life. In life, challenges and setbacks are inevitable, and sometimes others will try to take you what's yours. But as long as you stay honest, resilient, and hardworking, your rewards will come in due time. For Eric, it was a harsh reminder that envy and dishonesty lead only to regrets. The shortcuts we take to undermine others ultimately undermine ourselves. So when life feels unfair, remember, no one can take what's truly yours, and the truth always finds its way to the surface. Stay true to yourself, stay polite, stay humble, stay honest, and trust in your journey. We all don't have the same path, but stay true to your path because karma never misses.